Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to hear the story, the man who is known as like the wholesaler guy, right? Like this guy does a bunch of flips, wholesaling deals. Let's welcome Bryce to the show. Bryce, welcome.
What's up, Josh? Thank you, man, for having me on. I'm excited, man. I'm
Yeah, dude.
excited.
Learn how to flip real estate like a pro. That's what it says on your headline. Bryce, I'm excited to hear your story and what you've got going on. So, kind of give us an idea on to the audience and to the fellow deal makers. What are you working on right now that's exciting?
Well, I think the most exciting thing that I'm working on right now is something that's a little personal to me. About 3.5, 4 years ago, my business partners and I at the time, where I really got my feet wet, just started having a falling out, a breakdown of communication and different insights on vision and things like that. One guy got married, the other guy moved to Mexico, and I was kind of stuck virtually holding the weight on my shoulders. And I had never truly been a business owner. I was an entrepreneur, right? But I was an independent Fortune 500 consultant that was, just out selling myself and not selling a dream, a vision, or a company. And after that relationship and partnership kind of dwindled apart and fell apart, I made it personal. Like, I'm going to come back in my Dallas local market and really put my foot down and show them what they missed out on. So that's my biggest project right now. So I've got a acquisition team of, we've got 8 people here in Dallas. We've got 5 or 6 VAs. We've got a marketing team. And I'm just working on coming back here to the Dallas market and like stepping on toes, right? Like it's a little personal. That's my biggest project I'm working on in my business right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all great deal makers have gone through some heartaches, have gone through some breakups, have gone through some deals gone wild, and they come back to the game a little bit better than before and they've learned something. So the beauty of this show is we get to talk about some of the things we've learned from the deals gone wild. So you mentioned an entrepreneur versus business owner. You said that there's kind of a difference. What are the differences?
Yeah, great question. I think that an entrepreneur is someone that just goes out and hustles, right? Someone that we most business owners are entrepreneurs, but most entrepreneurs aren't business owners. And there's the distinct difference of owning a business where, we hire smart people to tell us what to do, right? We hire coaches and mentors. But as a business owner, we hire smart people to either one, do the things that we can't do, won't do, or just doesn't fill our cup. But as an entrepreneur, we tend to wear all these hats and just go 100 miles a minute. And so the difference between the two is knowing what the difference is between task and responsibilities, delegating those things, and then exploiting the weaknesses and or the strengths of those team members to put them in the right seat. They may come in one seat, but they may be better suited over here. And that's the true art of business owning and managing and operating a business versus the entrepreneur that's just out there hustling.
Yeah. Bro, I am so glad you brought that up because, as I look at myself, I would consider myself a pretty strong entrepreneur, built some cool stuff, done a lot of things. But the area that I feel most stretched right now, I just turned 40 a couple months ago. The area that I feel most stretched is in becoming more of a business owner. Now I have teams, I have other people that I'm responsible for. I have to step into areas of leadership, casting vision. Like before, I'm like, just get it done. Now it's just like I have to manage other people, relationships, tasks. So when
And
you,
recasting the vision
oh God,
over and
over and
over
over.
from different perspectives for different persons, right?
Yeah. And then when you're recasting the vision, sometimes you need to reshare the vision of going, okay, we were here. Now we need to pivot the vision a little bit to go over here. And it's a big challenge that I've had in your experience moving from more of an entrepreneurial mindset to business owner. What was the biggest challenge that you've experienced?
Yeah, for me, it's probably that leadership part. I'm a natural leader, right? I tend to. One coach years ago told me suck the oxygen out of the room. the next coach now that has seen my leadership skills honed over the years dominate and own the room, right? There's a very distinct difference. And so I can walk into a room and the presence is felt that I'm there, and I can create a following. My biggest challenge, and probably the thing that I'm currently and still working on, is not only to get somebody to follow, but somebody to encourage other follow. It's almost like discipleship, right? It's like getting the follower to get somebody else to follow and passing that baton down to now that responsibility is someone else's to keep going forward. So that way I can keep bringing in business or keep creating new networks or relationships and things like that. So for me, it's leadership from a different perspective, because you can lead from the front all day long, but people only run as fast as you stay close to them. And if you're running 100 miles a minute and they're running at 75, well, you better make sure that you look back over your shoulder, reach down, pull them back up with you, and keep going that way. And that's been my biggest challenge, because I tend to go a lot faster than I probably should sometimes.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. So you're in the Dallas market, right? Is that how long have you been there?
Yeah, so I've been here since early 2011, late 2010, somewhere in there. Part of my backstory, right, and how I got there. Came from the corporate world, Fortune 500 consulting on a contract, and just never left, man.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you give us a little bit of your backstory, and then we could dive into what you've used in the past to parlay into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I guess, Josh, how far do you want to go back?
Two parents fell in love, and I don't know, man. You
Back
take
in
it to where you think.
1977. No. By the way, happy birthday. When's your birthday, man?
It was November 7th. I turned 40 this past year. I'm getting old. I got gray hairs in the mini beard that I got. So
Yeah.
I'm learning about this thing called life and who the heck I am,
You got a month on me, man. Mine's Christmas Eve, so I had to
Mm.
ask. So I just turned 40 Christmas Eve. So
Happy birthday. We're the same year.
yeah, man. Happy birthday, brother. We're like brothers. Did we
Yeah.
just become best friends?
Yep.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So my story, my entrepreneur, like hustler journey really starts out around the age of like 7, 8 years old. And I go back to this story often because it taught me so much about resilience. I looked at my dad working 2 or 3 jobs. My mom back in the late 70s, early 80s was a stay-at-home mom, like most of the moms were. But man, we were living like month to month, paycheck to paycheck, and barely making it. I remember standing in the government food lines with the gallon of peanut butter that was like half full with oil and like the best cheese in the world, the government cheese, right? And I was determined that my future family would never have to experience that. And I just remember getting made fun of as a kid and having the holes in the jeans and the holes in the shoes. And I wanted to buy my own new shoes. My dad couldn't afford it. And I remember feeling as if I was getting excuses. And so I had begged and begged for a paper route. Like, let me go, I want a paper route. That was my childhood job. And they finally worked out, made the time, called the route manager, got me all set up on this paper route. And 2.5, 3 weeks in, it was about time to get my first pay from my paper route. I'll never forget the irony. Her name was Karen. She comes over to the house and sits me and my dad down. I'm excited. I'm thinking I'm about to get my first paycheck. And while I was getting my first paycheck, I was also informed that in Northern Illinois, you had to be 10 years old to have a paper route. And so they were going to have to let me go. And she was encouraging me to stick with it. She loves my work ethic. And I was doing a great job, no complaints. And I was crushed. And I remember looking at her, looking at my mom, looking at my dad. My mom was kind of disappointed. My dad was just kind of a matter of fact, like, well, it is what it is. And I'm like, my parents thought that I was worth it and could do a good job. And obviously you did. You congratulated me. I didn't realize what I was doing back then. I looked at my mom. I said, gosh, we could really use the extra money. What if we put the route in my dad's name? And if I do a good job when I turn 10, give me more responsibilities. And I just remember seeing them like connect the dots, like, holy cow, why didn't we think of this? And that gave me the courage and confidence to continue to ask great questions to get what I wanted. And wouldn't you know it, they decided that they would. And over the next year and a half to 2 years, I went from having one paper route in my dad's name to 5 additional routes at the age of 10. So I had 6 paper routes by 10 years old. I was making more money selling papers than my parents were between their 2 or 3 or 4 part-time jobs combined. And a lot of that had to do because I seen what that hustle or that drive would do. And so I convinced all of my paper route, subscriptions to pay in the office versus me knocking on the door and tearing the little tabs off and collecting every 2 weeks, things like that, to which create, larger margins for the paper company. I got paid more per customer, things like that. And I was doing really well. And I look back on that and was like, wow, there was some natural talent there that needed to be honed in and cultivated. And as an adult looking back, I see all the things along the way that kind of did that. But then it got rough, man. My parents separated. I was probably 11, 12 years old. My parents separated. My mom, again, single mom, 2 kids, me and my little brother, moved into subsidized housing. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And I grew up in this very strict, like almost cult-like religion. Like you look at a TV, you're going to hell kind of religion. And so I thought to myself, I remember this very vividly, like if that was God, I wanted nothing to do with it. And I ran the other direction. I became the coolest kid in school, cussing, smoking, doing all the things that all the cool kids did. So I thought. And it got me into a lot of trouble, Josh. I mean, by the age of 17, I was facing some very hefty criminal charges. I was probably going away for 2 or 3 life sentences, let's just say. And by the grace of God, all charges were acquitted. I got a second shot at life, no felony convictions. And my uncle grabs me by the ear, walks me out of the courtroom that day and says, "You're coming to live with me. You're going to get your act together." So here's kind of this second, like, new life, new birth in my life. And the hustler kicks in, and my uncle put me to detail cars and trucks in the wash bay at this car dealership that he was managing and partners in. And man, I just begged and begged and begged, kept asking questions. Hey, can I try to sell a car today? Can you put me on the team? Hey, can you show me what happens when? And kept getting rejection. And then it was the middle of December, about a week before my birthday, on a cold, blizzard, snowy day. The little old lady that we gave a ride into the dealership anyways, her, my uncle, and myself were the only 3 that showed up. He's like, "If you can sell a car today, I'll put you on the team." That's what I did. I opened up the phone book. I went to start dialing. And by the end of the 5 or 6 hour shift that we were there, I had a police officer and another farmer come in for oil change appointments that I ended up creating what they call an up in the car business, created a customer, and ended up selling 2 trucks and an SUV that day. And I was hooked. From that moment on, I studied the art of persuasion and the art of sales and marketing, and just went to work. And over the next 2.5 years, I became the #1 car salesman in the world within the Ford Motor Company organization. I was recruited out of my dealership between the age of 22 and 23, traveled the world teaching my 7 steps to business and my 5 steps to the sales process and conversation. And then unfortunately, Josh, in 2006, my wife at the time, her mom had been my Sunday school teacher growing up. My wife had lost a baby due to some medical malpractice and things that happened there, battling a lawsuit over the next 2 years. She would end up taking her life Friday, June 13th, 2008. And I was devastated, man. I was devastated and resorted back to the old habits and old way of coping with things. And between 2008 and 2010, I lost close to $80 million, 5 companies up my nose and in a bottle, just battling alcohol, drugs, and depression. And in that time, I met this girl If you're from Illinois or if you've ever been to Illinois, Northern Illinois, like, you've made it when you have a cabin in Wisconsin. That's where we all vacation, right? And that was like my goal. And I had a cabin in Wisconsin. And so I ended up in drunken stupor. I really don't remember the move. Somewhere in that time frame, I moved up to Wisconsin and I met this girl. We ended up having a baby together, and I sobered up in March of 2010. By the end of 2010, sober, baby about to be born, I gotten some new contracts under my belt. I was working with Tyco Corporation. A lot of us in real estate have probably had the ADT, New Homeowner Division, call. That's my program. Like, I was a part of implementing that into their structure. The acquisition of Brink Security, and then the deacquisition when they resold it within 2 years, I was a part of that. And had a lot of fun consulting in the Fortune 500 space with Tyco and Owens Corning, doing some hostage negotiations with the Pentagon, things like that. And then January, February rolls around. I took a contract and moved to Texas. And that's when I found out my son's mom, never really sobered up. And I came home one day early from the office on a Friday afternoon. Here my baby boy is just a couple months old, rolling around on the ground, pills everywhere, and she had OD'd in the bed. And rather than resorting back to the second or third old version of me, I was like, all right, what do I need to do? Cover my butt, right? CYA, as they say. Took some pictures, went to a hotel that Monday morning, started filing for custody of my son. And man, over the next year and a half, it would be a battle. I ended up losing contracts due to the drama, sleeping in my car. I was homeless for a little over a year. And I'll never forget, it was September 28, 2011, right in the middle of that time period where I had just had enough, man. I wrote a letter to my son. I wrote a letter to my mom. And I pulled out from underneath of this water tower that I slept behind into the middle of the road, cocked the hammer on my gun. The 40 cal sits next to my bed tonight. It's never jammed before, has never jammed since. But that night, it jammed in my mouth 3 times. And it was in that moment that I realized, okay, this is not just about me, but that there's a purpose within me. My friend Les Brown would say, you've got greatness inside of you, but you got to be hungry. And that's when I started getting hungry. I started getting hungry for my faith. I started getting hungry for the well-being of my son. I started getting hungry for the people that I had the opportunity to serve. And the rest is history, man. Well, I got into an argument that night with God after the gun jam the 3rd time. And I was just like, all right, bro, show up. I kind of talk to God that way, Josh. Like, dude, he's gangster to me. And he talks to me like that, kind of punches me sometimes, And yeah, man, the rest is history. Within 24 hours, I had an old client find an invoice that was unpaid. They wired me 20 grand. I had an apartment complex call me. They had a 1-bedroom available if I wanted it. They were running a special. And within a couple of weeks, I found wholesaling by way of the library computer, looking for jobs just to get back on my feet. And the rest is history. I've been in real estate ever since and just been super blessed, man. So I appreciate you asking.
Wow, bro. So, holy moly. I got to dissect some of the story, because what I like to do is when I interview people, I like to look at the story that creates the deal maker, right? Because if we look at people and we're like, oh, I wish I were them, right? A lot of times, especially in the business world or on LinkedIn or social media, you look at someone, you're like, man, I want to be just like them. But then you hear their story and you're like, I don't want to be anything like them, right? And so in this story, so you've experienced a lot of loss. Let me just say, man, I'm terribly sorry for your loss. That's rough, man. There's nothing I could say other than I'm sorry for the people that you loved that had died. I am so glad, and then fast forwarding, I am so glad you suck at suicide, that you failed that, like, I'm so thankful for that.
I know, right?
Cause you're a cool dude. All right. So let's go back in time, right? So here you are, #1 car salesman in the world, within a few years, homeless, living in a car, right? in a deal maker, entrepreneur, business owner's life, there's highs, there's lows, and how quickly they can turn from number one car salesman in the world, living like a baller, to living in a car homeless. What would you say if you had to talk to other entrepreneurs, other people who might not have education or the story that you have? What advice could you give to other deal makers to help prevent those kind of things?
Yeah, I think for me, I think of a quote, and I don't know who quoted it, but the most effective person isn't the genius in an organism or organization, but it's the genius maker. And how do we do that? We lead with questions, right? We ask great questions. I think I mentioned this to you, Josh. Like, great questions leads to great insights. And so if I had to talk to that person, I would actually not talk at them or to them. I would be asking them questions and helping them really see and identify the blind spots and the hiccups or hangups in their lives that they're seeing as obstacles that are nothing to other people. And some of the things that are massive to other people are nothing to them. And so if we can flip the coin, and one of the things that I like to tell people when I first meet them or we start coaching or working together is that if we always live life as if there's another explanation, you have an opportunity to find that, you know, flip the coin and ask questions to see if there's something on the other side of that. Live life as if there's another explanation. And so when I look back at those circumstances, you know, I could have made excuses, and I even tried in some of those cases, but it was not only solely up to me. It was, you know, the higher power that called me, right? And sharing my faith, Josh, it's like, dude, God doesn't call the willing; He qualifies the called. He sharpens us, right? So hence my hat. Like, through these fires, we get stronger and stronger. As long as we know there's light at the end of the tunnel, or in that shadow that we're in, like, we keep looking for that light because that shadow is being cast from somewhere, you know? So it would be really to just ask great questions of that person that I was talking to.
Yeah, dude, so cool. So the 7 steps to business, 5 steps to sales. Give us an idea what some of the sales like questions, techniques, steps that you've developed over years.
Yeah, I like to think the conversation reminds me of going to the gym. You know, I just recently started working out again
You
full
look
time.
great.
Thank you, bro. I'm down like 53 pounds in the last 6 months. Like, I've been
Nice. You
grinding.
look awesome, man. Good for
Thank you. Um, if I look at the conversation as if it were a workout at the gym, the first step is always what? We warm up, we stretch out, we use good form. So that way we don't hurt ourselves when we go to lift or squat or do whatever. So step number 1 is what I call the warm up. And we always warm with form. And form is an acronym. A lot of people may have heard, if they've ever taken any sales training, the acronym WARM with Ford, FORD. I can no longer teach that because that's part of Ford Motor Company's copywritten training that we did years ago. However, I switched it to FORM, FORM, and it still is applied. And so that stands for family, occupation, recreation, always solves motivation. You'll never solve someone's motivation over here if you don't know what they're for. And so we ask 3 to 5 questions around family, occupation, recreation. So you should have like 9 to 15 questions answered before you ever start moving to the second step. When I was contracted with Owens Corning years ago, they would preset these appointments to sell like siding and windows and insulation and roofs and different things for home improvements. And they would go into this appointment and be 20, 30 minutes in and out and wonder why their conversions were at like 25 to 30%, which is pretty good in a preset appointment. But it's like, you should be spending 20 to 30 minutes minimum getting to know these people because they've given you the opportunity or permission to be in their house. So spend some time with them. So ask them 3 to 5 questions about their family. Oh, wow. Is that your wife? Oh, that's your mom? Gosh, you guys got great genes. You must get your looks from her. Is your mom still around? No, she passed. By the way, I appreciate your condolences earlier. Like one of the biggest things in sales is people are always like, and in conversations is like, I'm sorry. I'm not diminishing what you said earlier, Josh, but like that's the biggest thing when you're trying to build rapport. And like, oh no, she's passed. I just speaking off the fly. Well, versus saying I'm sorry, what if you said, please accept my condolences? Were you close? And now you can attach a feeling or emotion to it and get them to open up more. And now you become their best friend. Because we all say, I'm sorry. And this is not to any credit to what you were saying earlier. I'm just using this in this example. But are you sorry? Did you kill this mother in this hypothetical?
Nope.
Right. So if I had one secondary message for the world, quit saying you're sorry. Like, I'm not sorry. It made me a person who I am today, right? But in this role play, and we start warming with form, we start talking about their family, we start talking about their occupation. Gosh, your mother must have been super proud of you. What do you do for work that she supported you in all your dreams? Oh, wow. You're a real estate investor. That's super cool. How long have you been doing that? And you ask 3 to 5 questions and kind of intertwine them. You know, do you have kids that keep you up at night when you're not working so hard? Whatever. We just start building a better conversation. Because most of the time in a sales engagement, or what I like to call a communication event, people want to get straight to business. And that only works if you've been in a long-lasting relationship. It's like, you know what the expectations are. We're going into this. This is what we're talking about. And then that's more of a consultative sales role. But if you're just having conversation, people want to feel like other people in the same situation that you've had success with. And so step number 2, just like at the gym, when you go to the gym, like you don't go and start bench pressing 300 pounds or 200 pounds. You move the needle, you bridge the gap, right? 50, 75, 100. So step number 2 with every conversation is what I call bridging the gap. Another way to look at this is the old cliche saying, keeping up with the Joneses. We've all heard that, right?
Yeah.
That's a true, word track that is true to our subconscious. People want to feel like other people that have had success doing what you are about to do in this communication event. So you may use words like, most of the time people I talk to, Josh, you did this really well, by the way, most of the interviews I do this, like you did it naturally, right? Earlier, it's no different. So if you're talking to someone about raising money, or you're talking to them about pitching, or getting bids on flips, it's like, most of the contractors I have come through, they do this, but they want to know this. Do you have those same types of questions? Great. And besides that, are you able to do this, this, and this? Now you can redirect and maintain control and set proper expectations. And how do we do that in a sales environment? Well, we have to break down their limiting beliefs. And so step number 3 is what I call asking defeating questions. Going back to the scenario at the gym, what happens, Josh, when you get to like rep 8, rep 9, rep 10? We start to create a limiting belief from our muscle fatigue that changes the chemical imbalance in our mind. We can do the same thing by asking questions differently. So if we ask defeating questions, then it's, what do we say? Well, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so I like to teach people how to ask the same question with different tonalities, with different curiosity, voice inflection. So that way it creates a limiting belief in the other person in the communication event's mind. And now their $200,000 price point becomes 150 without even talking about price, because you've already been challenging their beliefs. A perfect example of that is a lot of us contractors and flippers, right? We go into a house, we're like, oh yeah, we definitely need to take this out. We're not doing that in 2022 anymore. What would you change over here? Oh, you would? Okay. I think I would do the same. It's like, no, stop doing that. What if you just challenged them? Like, oh, wow. How long have you been planning on leaving this like that? Notice how I asked the same thing, but now it's like they're going to second guess. Well, it's fine. It works. In 2022? Have you seen those houses that are selling on full market value? Oh, you have. So now you can become the authority. So that they've got this open concept and they did away with those exposed beams and really opened it up, right? And just like that, they start to nod their head yes, because they're breaking down their limiting beliefs about this is okay. I'll still get retail for it the way it is. And then at the gym, what happens when you've got these limiting beliefs? Step number 4, you rack the bar, you close out your set, right? That's when, once you've created enough limiting beliefs around their thoughts and ideas, then you can provide a solution, or in this case, close the deal. Set the expectations as to the next appointment, get the contract, grab the email, whatever that is, but lock it up, right? So step number 4 is the solving of the problem or the close. And then last but not least, we don't just walk out of the gym and, like I used to, go get pizza and ice cream to celebrate because you had a good day at the gym. You earned it, right? No, you stretch out, you warm down, and we always warm with form. So then it's like, Josh, it's been so great, like getting this checked off your list. How are you and your family going to go celebrate? You going to take the wife out to dinner, being it's Valentine's Day? Nice. Where are you guys going to go? And the kids, did you get a sitter? Make it easy, light, warm down with form, talk about their family. You got to get back to work today, whatever. Now you guys left on best friends. You started on best friends and you got business done in the middle. And that formula has proven over and over and over to get more deals, to make more friends, have better conversations. The wife picks up her clothes, the kids do the dishes, like all of the things. It's a 5-step pattern that you can use for anything and just have better conversations.
Yeah. All right. So in the world of wholesaling, so you're in wholesaling, you said you learned it on a computer at the library, which is like the slowest piece of device in the history of devices. You learned about wholesaling. Talk to us about how you got into wholesaling. First deal you did.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy, right? So unlike most people that watch the rabbit hole go deeper and deeper down YouTube University, I knew that I had this like 7-step process to business, and it just depended on what the widget was. As a Fortune 500 business consultant, like I just came in and I did the thing. So I'm watching this YouTube video, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody was making a YouTube video 10 or 11 years ago, just over 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I watched the second one, and then I watched a third one. And it was by the third video I realized, oh, he's talking to homeowners. He's just having conversations with homeowners that need to sell their house. So that's what I did. Little did I know, I didn't understand the whole second half, like steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 in my 7-step equation. I just knew income producing activities. I'm in a bind. Let's go get houses under contract. So that's exactly what I did. I went to Fizbo.com. I went to Craigslist. I went to Zillow and started calling for sale by owners. I looked in the yellow pages, for real estate offices and asked if they had any off-market properties. I just started prospecting. I was calling just like I did back in the dealership. That's what I did. I just went to work, started income producing activities, and I was hustling on the phone. I can't say that. Actually, I can. Jimena, can you hand me that belt buckle up there on top? My very first deal, I went and met with the homeowner and walked that one there. Yeah, I went and walked the property. I know I've only walked 6 properties now in 10 plus years, but my very first deal, I went and met with the guy. He's like, you can have whatever you want. I didn't know. I was like, oh yeah, just leave it here. We'll take care of it. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know what happened. But I've got, this is my very first deal. I got this really cool, like epitome of Texas, like belt buckle. It was in this guy's backyard. It's real rattlesnakes and whatnot. And I thought it was the coolest thing. So I got this like token of appreciation, and I got a house under contract, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with this contract, but I didn't just get one. I just kept going and going, Josh. I ended up contracting like 23 houses that first month. No clue what I was supposed to do with the contracts. I just figured I would tell somebody about them and they would they would sell. I ended up finding a local company here in Dallas that was already doing the business and turned them over to them and thought we were going to do a JV. They were actually looking to hire some acquisitions persons. And they're like, you got 23 contracts. Well, this one's garbage. This one, they just started like eating them up. And I was like, oh crap, and then I learned how to run my numbers better. Then I learned like that was the learning curve there. So my second full month was really learning what I did wrong in my first month. And we only ended up closing like 5 of the 23 deals. Pretty good. I made more money that first month and I had no clue what I was doing than I had in a long time. Third month comes around and they're like, why don't you just come work with us? And being the hustler / consultant in me, like, nah, I don't want to work with you. This is what I want to do. Let's just kind of partner together. They didn't like that idea. They waited 2 or 3 weeks. They called me. They're like, if you can do that again, we'll talk about it. So my technically like third month in the business, I ended up contracting 37 houses that second full month, technically my third month. And we ended up closing like 35 of those 37 deals. And I was hooked. Like I just need to talk to people and have a conversation and help them through their divorce or their debt or their death or all of these code violations, like all these things. I can do that. And it's been fun, man. It's been fun. I've been super blessed.
That's so cool. I appreciate you sharing that. This is really cool. The I learned about wholesaling. So I grew up on a construction site with dad, and I love going to yard sales, garage sales, right? I would go with my Jewish grandmother. We would buy stuff, and I would practice like negotiations and such like that. But I went to a yard sale one time, and there was this huge binder that talked about real estate, and it said it was Carlton Sheets, how to buy houses, no money down. He was like
Nice.
one of the first guys in the game in flipping. It was a cassette tape, and I remember listening to it. I was like 18 years old, 19 years old, and I was knocking on doors, and I found a lady that wanted out and wanted out now. I was like, well, if you list it, it's probably going to be a couple months. You'll probably get this. I could probably get you, 50 grand less if within a week. And she said, done. I was like, and I made 14 grand on that first wholesale deal. And I was like, wow, the power of being able to lock up a deal, the power of being able to talk to someone and get the conversation started is, I found a lot of success in doing those kind of things. Not nearly as well as you, good sir. You are an absolute monster in this. So now you've done 7,000 or so wholesale deals, like your team.
Personally, I'm up over 7 between my team and my business partner. We're up over 10. Yeah. And it's really cool because it's not about, how many deals that we've done, but it's the experience that we've learned that we've been able to help thousands more.
Yeah.
These last 3-4 years, as I've made this personal to come back and dominate the Dallas Fort Worth market and learning that side of things, in those 3.5, 4 years of making that transition while fighting through this non-compete and honoring my word there, we've built the academy to where we've been able to help thousands of people based on our experience. That's what's been really cool for me. So
Yeah, it's so cool. So you said you mentioned you grabbed a phone book, right? And you started dialing.
yeah.
Uh, was it the white pages or the yellow pages that you grabbed and started making phone calls?
So in the car business,
Yeah, back in the day.
yeah. So back then, yellow pages had like both. They were together. You remember that? There was like
Yeah.
the yellow pages was like the bottom half and the white pages were the top half. Do you remember that?
Yep.
So it was the yellow book and it was both. I didn't know where to start. So I just started like dialing. I opened it up. I don't even remember where I was. I opened it up right in the middle of the white pages and just started dialing numbers. Hey, Bob, this is Bryce over at Dell Ford. How are you? I'm good. You staying cool? We're staying dry in the snowstorm? Yeah. Well, hey, this is the reason why I'm reaching out. Like I just started winging it. No, I just bought one. Blah, blah, blah. Click, going through the hangups, everything, all that, right?
Yeah.
As far as the real estate part of it, it was all mostly online. It was all mostly online, Zillow.com for sale by owners, Craigslist, Fizbo.com, all those different sites. And then Facebook Marketplace, which is one of the major things that we teach, Now, like we've been doing this for 10 plus years, where a lot of people in the COVID pandemic, whatever you want to call it, like is trying to transition to virtual. We've been doing this virtual for 10 years now and teaching groups and how to leverage them and things like that, making posts daily in groups and so forth.
Dude, so cool. So when I got the phone book, right, my thought was if I'm starting out as an agent, I got my real estate license pretty young. I was like, everybody's starting out at the same place. So I like flipped forward and I started with the names that started in D and I just started calling them, calling on the people and cold calling. I'll tell you, there's a fear of cold calling. Even
Oh,
I've
for
done
sure.
thousands and thousands of phone calls or whatever. I still get nervous every once in a while if I'm going to call on a business or call on a prospect or call on something. What's advice do you have for people when it comes to cold calling out of a phone book if they were to do that today?
Two things. One, remember this. You're going to say the same thing 1,000 times. It's the first time that person has ever heard your voice, your tonality, your experience. That's it. So just do it. Just do it. Like it's not going to do it for itself. Just do it. Right. And then two, write out some affirmations and trick yourself. I mean, I've got pre-call affirmations. It's like, I'm a trusted investor. These people I speak to need my help, whether they're aware of it or not. I create win-win solutions. I am their best option, and it's my responsibility to help them see that. Every single time I jump on a call, even after making tens of thousands of millions of calls over my professional career, I have affirmations that I write and chant. Before I go on stage and speak, my team thinks I'm ludicrous. Like I'm in the bathroom jamming out to some like workout motivation music, screaming in the shower, my affirmations, just getting myself psyched up. So it works. You can really pump yourself up and talk yourself up, but that high only lasts so long before you start telling yourself a different story. So then you've got to just remember, like, this is the first time they've ever heard you. It's the first time they've ever had the opportunity to be in your presence. You do your best, and the people that you want to work with and the people that need to work with you will come together when they come together. You just can't force it. I mean, that's biblical, bro. Don't make me start preaching.
Hey, this is a good place for it. You got a microphone. So, Bryce, as one of the thing that I enjoy the most is getting to know people, hearing cool things, and asking questions that I come up with top of my head. But I'm only as smart as I have experience for. But so I bought cards that have questions on it. So tell me when to stop, and we're gonna read off one of the questions, and you're gonna answer it.
I love this. Stop right there.
All right,
Yep.
this is your card. All right. Oh, what's a
Uh-oh.
common trait shared by everyone you've partnered with and or dated, right? So you could choose the dated route or business partnered with. Common
Mm.
trait.
So I'm a firm believer of finding someone in my life that fills in the gaps. And so, if you look at, I got to brag since it's Valentine's Day, dude, my wife, way out of my
Oh, she's a lot better looking than you. You are.
league, way out of my league, right? Like those of you listening that just missed the picture, she's like a 14 on a scale from 1 to 5. Like she's way out of my league.
Is she in the room with you right now?
She's downstairs. I brag about her all the time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay,
She's
gotcha.
downstairs. She's so far out of my league. And yet to ask her questions and see like where her headspace was and realize we're not that different. Like you go talk to some hot girl and they've got issues too. It's crazy. Like people are just people. And so I realized really young that in my personal relationships, I wanted someone to fill in the gap. Some of those gaps as I matured were mommy issues or daddy issues, like who can be the boss, right? As I grew up and matured into wisdom, it was who can care for me like a mom, not just a dad, because I became a single parent at a young age. It was who can fill in those gaps and do and teach the things that I just can't do and teach. And my wife is like the epitome of stereotypes when you think of like hot Asian women, like they drive slow in the far right lane and all these things. And yet Dude, I have learned so much, like being patient with my son, right? And it's no different with my business partner. I mean, we just had an incident today where one of my acquisitions persons wanted to like have a tough conversation, and we have an open door policy. Well, what they don't know is that my business partner already called me out on some of the things that I said, and I didn't realize that I made it this way versus how it should have sounded or looked this way. There was no intentions on anything behind it. It was just like I was excited and I did something. I over exaggerated something a typical sales guy would do, right? My acquisitions person's like, that's kind of BS. Well, between that calling out and questioning and the time it happened, my business partner had already checked me on the chin verbally and emotionally and spiritually, like, dude, that's not what we're trying to present. It was like, yeah, you're right. I didn't realize it sounded that way, right? So that's one thing I love about my active business partner is like we are able to come together and just put it on the chin and fill in those gaps. He's a military guy. I'm not. I'm a reformed gangster that turned corporate sales guy that turned, dad, husband, and he's got this very militaristic, like, discipline, and he kind of reels me in. I like to call him my tether versus my anchor, So
Yeah.
I like to find people and put them in places in the areas that I'm weak in. And that goes for any and all of my relations. I'm not great at networking. Believe it or not, I can work a room, Josh, but I'll never call you back. It's a weakness. But I've got a pretty amazing assistant. If I hand her business cards, she could put them in our thing and like follow out and follow up and get a schedule together. Like, yeah. So those are kind of the things that I would answer that question
Word. All right. We don't want to go there with you, but let's just pretend you're about to go up on stage, you're in the shower, you're chanting, you're listening to some music. What's the music? What's your pump music? What's your, like, if I went through your phone and I found the number one pump song, what is it?
with. I love that. So I would have to say the first thing that I play on loop is Stephen Furtick's motivation music. If you've never listened to that, um,
Can you
it's
share that link with us, maybe? The
yeah, for
playlist?
sure, for sure. I don't know how I do that from here to there, but yeah, I will definitely share that with you. If you go to Spotify, it's Stephen Furtick Motivational, or if you find me on Spotify, you can subscribe to my playlist there. But yeah, it's not that. It's not that.
All right. What we'll do is,
Yeah,
yeah, you can maybe you could share your Spotify link later on, email it to me, and I'll put it in the show notes. So, fellow deal makers, if you want to get like pumped, maybe in the shower or after, whatever, then like this is a playlist that you could be playing in the bathroom. All right. Now, pull out the affirmations. You have them written down before
yeah.
you start making phone calls and before you jump up on stage. Pull them off.
So
All right.
I have pre-call affirmations, and then I have my daily affirmations. Which ones do you want?
Mm, pre-call. All right. I want you to say it how you say it to yourself. Go through a few of them. The way you speak to yourself with Steve Furtick. You don't have to play him because I don't want to get copyright infringements, right? But give us some of your affirmations, the way you say it before you have to hit the pavement doing prospecting all day.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'm in the shower. I'm usually like just standing there with ice cold water. And I'm like, I am a high performance achiever. I am a trusted investor. These people need my help, whether they're aware of it or not. The people I speak to, I create win-win solutions. I am their best option. And it's my responsibility to help them and solve their motivations. I will apply extra effort while providing additional value to everyone I come in contact with. I handle every objection with ease, and I provide simplified solutions with speed. I get consistently better and better on every call. Thanks, Grant. On every call, it's sell or be sold. And then I just kind of go through that over and over. I am their best. And then in the Stephen Furtick motivation, he has an I am an overcomer. I am a believer. I am a chosen one. And then I repeat that and I just kind of scream what he's saying over and over and over.
So they think you're an absolute lunatic, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
So good. This whole thing of I am. I think when it comes to identity, confidence, personal value proposition, right? I think that every deal maker, and this will go to the men's show that I have too. But I think everybody has to ask themselves that "Who am I?" question. I had to ask myself enough where I freaking tattooed it on my arm so I don't forget it, right?
Right.
So the, it is so important, and I love the way he ends it with like, "I am an overachiever. I am a conqueror. I am victorious." Right? Like that is cool.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this question: all the characteristic. How old's your kid?
My boy just turned 11.
Okay. Out of all the character traits, out of all the successes, out of all the lessons, anything that you could teach your son, let's just say he's like me and he could only learn one of them, right? Because we're a little slow. What's that one thing that you want your boy to learn from you?
If it's one thing,
One thing.
it would be to follow and love Christ.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
That's
cool.
it. I mean, dude, he's a sales assassin. Like hashtag the middle school millionaire. He gained that title from like Tony Robbins and Caleb Maddox, like back when he was like 7 or 8 years old. So, dude, he's just a stud in him all by himself. But the one thing that I can't stress enough to him is follow Christ, love Christ, and everything else will take care of itself. I secondary, I make sure that he understands sales. He knows sales in and out. He loves it. So right now he's hustling domains. So if anybody wants to buy codingforkids.com, IO, or any of that, he owns all of those. Like,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome. Middle school millionaire. I'll interview him. We should chat with him. Get interview him on this show, and we could talk about the deals that he's slinging. I was buying and selling fake Oakleys, switchblades, and bubble gum when I was in middle
I
school.
liked you, man.
What's that?
I said I knew I liked you, man.
Yeah, I always had bubble gum and coins all in my pocket, walking around chinging everywhere. So let me ask you this question, Bryce. Your academy. Who's it for? What could they expect if someone's learning that kind of deal?
Yeah, so our academy, the REI Results Academy, is for just about anybody that wants to get started can go through our course material and get results. But we really want to focus on working with those that are already doing 5 to 10 deals consistently a month so that we can do more consulting. Do this to get 20 deals, do this to get 25 deals. And that's where Kyle and I thrive. Kyle's my business partner. We really thrive on getting results from the implementable actions that most people don't see, right? Being their blind spot identifiers. And so, as former consultants, both of us in the Fortune 500 space, that's what we do best. I mean, I can get a newbie started, but I would much rather somebody that's already started that needs to go to that next level, hang out with them, once a week or twice a week and take their business from, 100 to 120 grand a month to 500,000 a month. That's
Word,
that's what we do best.
word. Shout out. Where could people go to connect with you and to do a deal with you?
Yeah, fantastic. So we just wrote a book. It's about 6 months old. It went international bestseller called The 5 Hour Flip. So the number 5hourflip.com. It's selling on Amazon right now for like 20 or 30 bucks. But if you go to 5hourflip.com, it's $7. And you can book a call with me and my team right from the e-version of the book. You can reach out to us. I still look at my own social media every couple of days. So social media, Facebook, Instagram, those are kind of my two go-to. I'm learning LinkedIn. I am on there. I'm learning it, but yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
What question should I have asked you? Personal or business? What question should I have asked you? Or that you wish someone would ask you? I wish someone would ask me this question. What is that question?
That's a tough one. And I like that question, Josh, because it makes you think. For me, I would say, why is your faith so important? And how are you doing sharing it?
Take it from here, bud.
knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that. I love that. You know, sitting in the back seat of a car with a 1-year-old baby and a gun in your mouth, you really go through life. And I felt in that moment that I couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't going to provide a better lifestyle than what my parents had for me, and I was going to be a failure. And when it jammed in my mouth and I had a really heart-to-heart conversation with the man upstairs, cussed him out, told him to show up. There's a verse in the Bible that says, ask and you shall receive. But what most people think is like, oh, you ask, he's just going to show up. And if he doesn't, it's not real. He also said that he stands there and knocks, which is past tense. And that was revealed to me that night. And I'm going to cry thinking about it, Josh, because he's been knocking at your heart. All the times when you felt like there was something missing, he keeps knocking and knocking and knocking. All the times that I've been through stuff and overcome stuff, he was there knocking and he just wanted a relationship. And so for me, having like been ingrained with Bible this growing up and wanting nothing to do with it, I had to go and study it for myself. And I would encourage anybody to do that. You can't argue or deny the fact that the Bible is the best-selling book of all time, always has been, and inevitably always will be. But you also can't deny the fact that when you're all alone and you're in your darkest moment, you reach out and you hope that God is there and you hope that he's listening, but then you expect something in return without ever reciprocating that. And in that moment, my gun jammed and I got mad at God and I told him, bro, show up. Because I talked to him like that, bro, show up. What I don't share with a lot of people is I heard the voice of God that night, just like Moses in the burning bush, how he couldn't look at the fire because of the presence of God was so strong. I couldn't look my son in the eye and tell him I wasn't going to be there anymore. But God used the 1-year-old baby voice to speak through my son, and 1-year-olds don't talk. If you've got kids, you know this. In that moment, I heard the same voice I hear today at 11 years old. I hear, Daddy, everything's going to be okay. And that's when I knew he's been knocking. I just had to let him in. And so I want to encourage anybody, just let him in. Give him a chance. I'm not the best, holiest Christian. I cuss a little bit every once in a while when I get frustrated. I don't drink. However, I don't condemn you for drinking. Like, Jesus turned water into wine. He made a party better. Dude was gangster. Like, he hung out with hookers and drug dealers and prostitutes. He was gangster. He's not this pussy that society's made him to be. He wants to be your friend. And I hope that encourages somebody to reestablish their faith or reach out for the first time and just know that he's not just some dude sitting on a throne, holier than thou. Just like you, he's given mankind a chance over and over and over. And when you look past the fictional sounding stories and you see, like me, I had to dig in deep and realize all the different cultural references and historical documents that points back to the word invalidating it, it just made sense. And I hope that encourages somebody else. You know, it is what it is. He says, I am today, yesterday, and forever. And that's what I found him to be. He's always been there, good times and bads. And I rejoice him when it's good now, not just when it's bad. And that's been really cool. And I've got a really cool relationship. I walk and talk with him every morning, just like Adam did in the garden. Every morning. All right, bro, what are we doing today? He shows me in his word. I talk back to him in prayer. It's a conversation. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
You got to tell us about Sharpen.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you asking. So Sharpen, it's not just a hat that I wear because I am bald. I know you can't hear this on the audio, but man, it's a couple of things for me. One, it's a reminder I look at myself, whether it's doing podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, interviews, it's a constant reminder because it's backwards. And so in the camera, it flips it. And so it's a constant reminder to get better, draw closer to like-minded individuals, let iron sharpen iron, like the word says, right? But it's also an acronym that keeps me grounded. It stands for selflessly helping already persons eager for nurturing. I'm picky about who I work with, but if you're eager and you're ready to run with me, I will give you the world and we will make things happen together. It's also the name of my nonprofit. We've got a nonprofit that we go out once a month and do homeless ministry, do a big breakfast in the mornings on Saturdays, and then we pass out, usually between $30,000 and $40,000 worth of like blankets and hats and gloves and boots or shorts and t-shirts in the summer, things like that, hygiene kits. And then in the afternoon, we play music and have a big pizza party and street festival downtown Dallas for the homeless. So it's like a 8-9 hour ordeal. We hang out with the homeless and just love on them, man. We just love on them.
Very cool. Bryce, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your passion, your excitement. Thanks for getting us pumped up. What we'll do for fellow deal makers, we'll put the links that he just shared, his Spotify playlist, the 5-Hour Flip Academy and the information there, and some of the other information and things that he's working on. So if you want to connect directly to Bryce, skip me, go directly to our guest, say thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. And, I really appreciate it. Fellow deal makers, if you're working on a deal or looking for a deal or want to come on the show and talk about a deal, this is the place for you. Head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, come on the show. Maybe you be the next guest. Maybe talk about a deal you're working on. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. Cheers.